My name is Tom Hudson, videographer, writer, actor, historian. I've been fortunate to have worked in a variety of historical locations over the years, stretching from the north of England right down to the south coast. And I guess you're thinking, there's an abundance of things that have taken place in Britain throughout its history. This series aims to explore those things that you want to know, the quirky bits. Welcome to the Historiographers. Welcome to Past Quirks. Hello everybody, so the Historiographers are back again, and we have the privilege this time to be speaking to a reenactor and author, Karen Bowman. Hello there, Karen, how are you?
Hello Tom, thank you for inviting me on.
No worries at all, it's lovely to meet at last. I've heard lots of good things.
All good, I hope, all good.
Absolutely. I noticed then obviously you do sort of a bit of writing and a bit of reenactment. What made you want to sort of get into that then?
What, the writing or the reenactment? Or
A bit of each, really. I mean, were they sort of exclusively sort of together in a way, or did you develop sort of these different parts, at different stages?
Well, it was a bit of chicken and egg, really. Always liked to dress up. And then once I started writing the books, I thought I'd better do some talks on the books. And I thought I'll dress up while I do it to get a bit more interest, to get a bit more of a focus for people to sort of look at you, and then it just puts them more in the sort of swing of things. So it was sort of a bit like that, and it went from there, really.
Oh, fair enough. So when you were a child, then I take it you were probably an avid reader, obviously growing up to be an author. Did you have any favourite books as a child, and if so, what were they? Did they influence your future career?
Yes, of course, yeah. It's the age-old thing, isn't it? Why do you write? And it's yes, because I wrote when I was a child. I wanted to be a writer when I was a child, and I obviously, like a lot of other people, started on Enid Blyton and the famous five.
Very good choice. My mother was very much into those. Yeah.
No, they were fantastic, because at that time, I was born in 57, so round about sort of 11, 12, it was still a time when boys were boys and girls were girls. And she used to write about the famous five, and they had a girl in there who had a long name. I think it was either Georgina or Joe or something, and they shortened it to the boy's name. And I thought, God, what a rebel. That just appealed to something in me to think, well, this is out of all the characters, I'll be that one. And it just sort of sparked something. And I used to like the ones when she wrote a little bit of history, when they had to find out a mystery about something sort of historical. And I used to really, really love that. So, yeah, I started off with her, and then went on to Rosemary Sutcliff and Nigel Tranter. They were also, at the time, they wrote history books for sort of young adults, and I really got into them. And I just always thought at the back of my mind, yes, I want to. I was so fascinated with it. I want to share that fascination with other people on the page. So, yeah, I wanted to start to write fiction, but ended up writing non-fiction.
Because you've obviously written things like, is it the Essex Boys and things like that? I mean, I bet that was absolutely incredible.
Well, the way that started out was such a long story.
We've got time, don't worry.
Well, I nearly missed the boat. But basically, a long time ago, around about 95, I joined an evening class called How to Get Published. So I thought, this is it. This is my chance. And it guaranteed to give you your joining feedback through writing for magazines and getting paid that way. So joined that. We learnt the basics. And, you sent bits off and they got sent back. So you got rejection letters all over the place. But the lady that took the class divided us up in the end and said, those that want to write poetry, those that want to write for children, those that want to write novels, all sort of go to different parts of the classroom. So we did. And there was 8 of us that wanted to write novels. So we used to meet around each other's houses every 2 weeks. The lady had said, don't turn it into a mother's meeting. You've got to get work done. You've got to produce at least 3,000 to 5,000 words every 2 weeks, which is roughly the length of a chapter, and read it out and get a critique from your peers. So that's what we did after a lot of wine and meals and things like that. But writing a book is a long process. So we decided as the group was, first of all, it was 8, then 1 left, and there were 7. So we called ourselves the 7 Pens, and we wrote short stories to sell for charity. So we put a book together and sold those, and that was quite lucrative for the charity, and that gave me a taste of being published. So I thought, oh yes, definitely. And also in one of the group there was a gentleman who took photographs. He took fantastic photographs. He worked for himself, and he actually launched the wife of, is it Ronnie Wood from the Stones? Jo.
Really? Oh, that is interesting.
Because she used to live local to us. Sort of, I'm in Essex, down by Southend-on-Sea. So she lived locally, and he was looking for models. So he took photos of her and took them into I think it was the Daily Mirror, it might have been. They snapped it up, and that sort of launched her career. Anyway, back to the gentleman. He said to me, look, I take photographs, and on the back of the photographs, I write a bit about them and get them into magazines. If you want to write an article, I'll illustrate it for you. So that's what we did. And I wrote for about 2 years doing that. And one of the articles was Romantic Essex Girls.
Oh, that does sound fun.
Valentine's Day. So I did a lot of research, found lots and lots of romantic Essex women, and produced the article. And round about that time also, one of the reasons I wrote Essex Girls, the first book, was basically righteous indignation. I got so annoyed with the way people were looking at Essex girls, high heels, white shoes.
Cliched, isn't it?
Ears, yeah.
Yeah.
No. I found some fantastic women throughout history. I'll write about them. So that article led on to the Essex Girls book. And as I say, I nearly missed the boat because I had sent it off to the publisher that my gentleman friend knew. So he said to me, look, I'll introduce you, but then it's up to you. So if he takes you on, it'll be on what you've written, not because of me. I didn't hear for months and months and months. And then I thought, oh, they don't like it. So I did eventually phone him up and say, what's happening with it? And he said, oh, I haven't heard from you. I thought you didn't want it published.
Oh.
So what? So we had a chat, and he said they wanted to publish it. And that's what happened. And of course, then Essex Boys came along because I wanted a pigeon pair. So that was that publisher. The last book, the one I've just done, is a different publisher. But no, I was quite pleased with those.
Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely fascinating. I mean, how would you describe, for instance, people that aren't familiar with your books, first-time readers of your books, how would you sort of describe the layout? And do you have any advice for anyone who wants to get involved in that sort of thing?
I always think there's different stages of books. There's the high academic books, and then you've got the social books, and then you've got that coffee table book. So I think mine are the middle bracket. They're basically the girls and the boys were basically 40 biographies of the different people. And I always think if you're going to write something, try and bring something new to it. So many books out there are basically regurgitations of another book, just written differently. If you can even get one fact in there that's different. And to me, the test is somebody saying, well, I didn't know that. Even if it's just the one fact out of the book, you think, I've done it. I've done what I set out to do.
It's that fact that sticks up above all the others, yeah.
Exactly. And also people have said that my books are quite approachable. They are well researched. I admit that. I usually use the academic books to research and then translate them into something that we can all understand. You read one fact and then you think, well, what have I just read? And I've got to go back to it. But no, so I would always recommend for someone, have a passion about what you're writing. So like the Essex Girls, I thought nothing's going to stop me writing about this. If it doesn't get published, it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, but that's not the reason for writing it. It's to get it out of your systems, to get it on the page, have your say. And I'd advise anybody to have a passion about what you're writing. Don't think of the money at the end of it, because 10% of us make the big time. Not me, I'm not saying 10% of us, including me, but 10% of writers really make the big time. The rest of us are just like jobbing actors. You just sort of go along. But always research well. Always try and put that little bit of... You always have somebody in your mind when you're writing and think, I'm going to tell them about that. And hopefully they'll say, well, I didn't realise that.
Because obviously it's a great way to get your view across, isn't it? And in a way, it's your opinion on paper, which is absolutely brilliant. So have you ever worked sort of in close proximity with any other authors and historians?
Not in a collaborative sense. I've researched for some friends of mine who produce books, but I've never actually worked alongside Alison Weir or anything. I've supported her with some of my living history friends on her book tour. So we dressed up and we were there one evening when she was giving a talk, and that sort of added to the atmosphere. And we went to Hever Castle, and Tracy Borman was there, and Sarah Gristwood, all the sort of Tudor historians. So you have a chat with them and think, God, they're so clever. So in that respect I have, but not actually sitting down with another author and going through it all.
So obviously from what you said then, I gather that the 16th century is one of your go-to time periods at the moment, or do you have any other ones that you think are particularly interesting as well?
Well, to be perfectly honest, the Tudors are not my favourite.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I've sort of got into that because of the talks, and it's easy to get on to do Tudor because you can put it together easily, which I did when I started. I got things off of eBay and basically dressed up, and then I thought, no, I need to take this to another level, so I got costumes made. Yeah, I enjoy it, the way it's worked out, that I enjoy to be a queen. I'm thinking, if I'm going to have to dress up, I don't want to be a peasant. I can't do peasant. I have to do royalty.
You have to do it nicely, don't you? Absolutely.
But I do like the Georgian period.
Okay.
I think that's a time of expansion and trade and lots of new ideas coming in. And I particularly like the Navy. And I am writing a book about women in the Navy, not women sailors, but the same sort of books that I've written already. It's
definitely.
People think that women didn't appear in the 18th century in the wooden world at all, but they did. You know, they were landladies, they were prostitutes, they were pirates, they were people that serviced the Navy. Lots of women wrote to the Admiralty saying, my husband's died, but can I carry on the business? And it's that sort of a woman's part in that. Because I also remember when I went to uni, I took myself off to university, and I did a maritime module, and they had one question on females, and I couldn't find any books. There was hardly any books, and I remember saying to the tutor, you know, this is really hard. And he said, well, you'll have to write one then. So I thought, light bulb moment. So it's taken me about 5 years to sort of think about it, but yeah, I'm gonna do that. That's the passion bit. I'm thinking, right, I'm gonna do that.
But funnily enough, actually, I had similar issues when I was doing my dissertations, that I picked subjects to fill that gap in the historiography, but then I'd be paired with a lecturer that actually said, technically this is out of my field of expertise, so you're going to have issues finding these bits and pieces. But you know, it's nice to have a challenge, isn't it? Because the things you find out through the course of the research, absolutely fascinating. If you could pick, say, somebody to meet from history, it could be anyone, who would it be and why? This is the $1 million question.
I have thought about that, and to be awkward, I wouldn't actually choose a famous person. I'd choose a person from every era, an ordinary person, and see how their lives, how they coped with everyday life. But if I actually had to choose somebody, I think it would probably be Shakespeare, and tell him off for writing all those wonderful books that give school children such a headache today.
It's the fact that they don't teach him in drama, they teach him in English. Mm-hmm. And it's fine for his prose and, you know, sort of all his sonnets, but when it comes to the actual plays, you can't see it come to life, can you? You're just reading in out of it. It's like reading a screenplay for a film, isn't it? You can't really visualize it until obviously you're watching it, you know.
And so many people are visual learners as well. So if you see it, it's like me, give me an instruction, I can't do it. Show me how to do it, and I can do it.
So you mentioned obviously Hever Castle before. Do you have any other historic locations in the UK that you absolutely love?
Most of them, all of them. Location-wise, I love Scotland. I just love Scotland because it's so rugged, it's so wild in places. Obviously the Highlands, which appeals to that side of me, the rebel side of me. But I also like the Cotswolds, where I do a lot of living history in Berkeley Castle and all that sort of buttery coloured stone. It's so gentle, it's so peaceful, sort of idyllic. So those are the two locations I really like.
Always get drawn to Edinburgh, I think, obviously because of the history behind it, but Highlands is definitely on the list of things I actually want to do. For anyone who's sort of interested in the sort of history that you write, social history and things like that, is the human stories, do you have any other authors or historians that you personally would recommend yourself?
I do like Sam Willis, who writes about the Navy a lot. He's great. Obviously Alison Weir, who's also great. But I love Lucy Worsley. And I also always think if anyone ever wanted to adapt my corsets and codpieces to the television, she would be the presenter.
Perfect one. Absolutely.
thinking, when I was writing the book, I could see her doing it, I could hear her doing it. So it's that sort of not a gossipy, but it's, I'll let you into a secret, this is what happened, and not many people know that. So I think she's lovely, she's great. Yeah.
So do you have any more book ideas then on the horizon, or are they under wraps at the moment, and how can fans find out obviously more information?
I have two with the publisher, but by the time I've written, it's going to take a couple of years. So they've got the ideas. One is basically, I think it's a social history of marriage. I tend to write a lot about women's viewpoint because I feel we're a bit the underdogs, but I'll get hammered for saying that.
No, not at all.
The other one is about the women and their naval connections and how they helped the Navy in the 18th century. So a couple of years and they should be out. And I've got a website that people can look on to see what's going on a Facebook page. So yeah, that's about it.
Fantastic, lovely. Well, I shall leave you to carry on with the rest of your day then. Thank you obviously very much for taking the time to speak with me.
Happy to chat to you.
And happy writing.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Lovely to meet you, Karen.